my country, the Netherlands, and obviously the usual suspects, the usual warmongers, NATO, are trying to pull China into another hot war with its own people and its own province, namely Taiwan. This is your favorite half Chinese. And how do they want to do it? They want to do it by violating the One China principle and pushing Taiwan for its own independence. This person here says of my government, and this is from the Dutch government, right? It's not Chinese propaganda, as many would like to say. This says it's a motion by member Paterno et al. On recognizing that the UN Resolution 2758 does not rule on Taiwan's future participation in the UN or other international organizations. Well, I think that is not true, and he is a liar. And let's see what Resolution 2758 of the United Nations actually is. It is the restoration of the lawful rights of the People's Republic of China in the United Nations. The General Assembly, recalling the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, considering that the restoration of the lawful rights of the People's Republic of China is essential, both for the protection of the Charter of the United Nations and for the cause that the United Nations must serve under the Charter. Recognizing that the representatives of the government of the People's Republic of China are the only lawful representatives of China to the United Nations, and that the People's Republic of China is one of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. Decides to restore all its rights to the People's Republic of China and to recognize the representatives of its government as the only legitimate representatives of China to the United Nations, and to expel forthwith the representatives of Chiang Kai-shek from the place which they unlawfully occupy at the United Nations and in all the organizations related to it. Well, if the people don't know who Chiang Kai-shek was, he was the old ruler of China who lost the Civil War. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Taiwan, because many people don't even know that. So, in 1911 to 1912, Chinese revolutionaries overthrow the Qing Empire and establish the Republic of China. And the Republic of China, how is Taiwan named? Republic of China. But at that time, they were ruling over whole of China, also the mainland, including Taiwan, and they were not seated in Taiwan at that time. Right? It's very important to know these kind of things. Why were they also ruling over Taiwan? Because at that time, Taiwan was also a part of China. So then we have 1943. During the World War II, Republic of China leader Chiang Kai-shek, here we have him, meets with US President Franklin Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill in Cairo. After the conclusion of the conference of the Cairo Declaration is released, stating that Formosa, Taiwan, and the Pescadores, the Penghu Islands, shall be restored to the Republic of China. So Taiwan and everything what was part of it was restored back to the Republic of China, right? So it's very important to know because it was occupied for a while by Japan. 1945, the ROC, Republic of China, UK and US jointly issued the Potsdam Declaration calling for Japan's unconditional surrender and the carrying out of the Cairo Declaration. So that is what they were talking about, right? After World War II, Republic of China government representatives accept the surrender of Japanese forces in Taiwan. The chief executive of Taiwan, Province Chunyi, sends a memorandum to the Japanese Governor General of Taiwan stating that as the chief executive of Taiwan province of the Republic of China, I restore all legal territory, people, administration, political, economic, and cultural facilities and assets of Taiwan, including the Penghu Islands. Right? So all has been restored back to China. So that is very important to know, and there we see that it is all China. In 1947, the Republic of China Constitution is promulgated January 1 and is scheduled to take effect on December 25 in March. And the following months, Republic of China troops dispatched from China suppress a large-scale uprising of Taiwan residents sparked by the February 28 incident, right? Mind you, these are Republic of China troops, not the People's Republic of China troops, because the civil war has not been won yet, and it was the Republic of China who was in charge back then, right? Before the people start to say that it is the People's Republic of China, so evil. 1948. As full-scale civil war rages in China between the Kuomintang-led Republic of China government and the CCP, the temporary provision effective during the period of national mobilization for suppression of the Communist rebellion, are enacted, overriding the Republic of China Constitution and greatly expanding presidential powers. This begins the period of White Terror that lasts until 1991, when the temporary provisions are lifted. Mind you, those White Terror was not coming from the communists. 1949, the Republic of China government relocates to Taiwan, followed by 1.2 million people from China. October 25 sees the Battle of Kuningdao on Kinmen, in which the Republic of China armed forces defeat the CCP on the northwestern coast of the island. Martial law is declared in Taiwan and continues to be in force until 1987. So this is very important, what they failed to mention, because I want to show people this is from the government of Taiwan, right? There's no doubt about it. So spare me with CCP propaganda BS, which I usually get. It is very important because what they failed to tell you that in 1949 they lost the Civil War, and that was the reason why they relocated to the island of Taiwan under the protection of the West, because the West is always protecting the one who is doing most harm to its own people for the benefit of the West. And that is why they were protecting the Chiang Kai-shek, because he was more than happy to put its own people under martial law all the way up until 1987. So he wanted to later recapture mainland China and rule over China again. So it is quite clear that Taiwan is a part of China. It never has been not, right? So now comes 1971. On October 25, the United Nations General Assembly passes UN Resolution 2758, recognizing the People's Republic of China as the only legitimate representative of China to the global body. The Republic of China withdraws from the UN. Well, that's very important. They say it in their own words. What actually happened, they were expelled according to the United Nations, right? They say, decides to restore all its rights to the People's Republic of China and recognize the representatives of its government as the only legitimate representatives of China to the United Nations, and to expel forthwith the representatives of Chiang Kai-shek from the place which they unlawfully occupy at the United Nations and in all the organizations related with, right? So obviously this where I'm reading the history from is actually from the government of Taiwan. So that is how they are writing it, right? That's how they want to fool their own people and the rest of the world. But they cannot fool us because, you know, we have the real deal here. MrFong. Anyway, I was just kidding. So, this whole motion by member Paterno on recognizing that UN Resolution 2758 does not rule on Taiwan's future participation in the UN or other international organizations is BS. Similar like the rest of whatever it is they're saying about China. Because it is clear that this in the last sentence, it says the place which they unlawfully occupy at the United Nations and in all the organizations related to it. So all the relations. And so this person has either no idea what he is talking about, or he is straight out lying. In both cases, he should be fired instantly and put out of his position because he ain't fit if he's doing one or the other. Which one is it? Let me know. Anyway, then this is according to Dutch state media, right? This is going to be fun. He again is lying. D66 Paternot, the first signatory of a motion on more opportunities for Taiwan, said in the NOS Radio 1 journal that China is isolating Taiwan and more. So this Paternot doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. My question is to Paternot. So what has China done that is isolating Taiwan actually, to be honest? We can do any business with them, whatever we want. We just need to abide by the agreement that we made with China, and that is the One China principle. And that is recognizing that Taiwan is a part of China. Therefore, we will not have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but we will be allowed to do any sort of other business and trade with Taiwan. So doesn't sound like isolation to me. So this again is a lie. Now, mind you, NOS is Dutch state media. All right, this is not just a regular media platform. It is a Dutch state media. So we can assume that they will be telling the truth on these facts, right? Well, but at least about what he is saying. I'm not saying that what is stated over there is truthful, because it's not. It's a straight out lie. And therefore, again, he should be fired. He's not fit to be in his position. And then he says here, and people who speak out for Taiwan's independence can even be sentenced to death in China. And that's totally not true. That's definitely not true. That's not what China said. What China said, there is installed, again, a death penalty for separatists. But it depends on what you do. Talking about independence, that's not falling under the death penalty. So again, this man is lying, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's either one. You cannot have something else, right? The choice is either one. So either he's lying or he doesn't know what he's talking about. In both instances, he should be fired. He's not fit. You cannot be in politics and lie to your own people, and you cannot be in politics and trying to push in motions truth of which you have no knowledge what it is about, right? Let's be honest here. And then he says, Paterno emphasized that Taiwan should not become isolated. Isolation increased the chance of invasion or a crisis there. This is again false and a lie. So let me explain what China's position is. China's position is for very, very, very long time that they want to have a peaceful reunification, but they will not shy away from military intervention under only two circumstances. And listen very closely, because this is important. One of the circumstances, if Taiwan wants to separate itself from the mainland and declare independence. That would be something for China to say, we're not going to let you steal our land, and military force will be used. Another is, if foreign forces are pushing Taiwan for independence or into a state of independence, like what Paterno is doing exactly now, because there's no reason to get Taiwan into the United Nations organization, because we know what next step will be. They want to have more and more and more until they are entangled in so many other different organizations, and then they can use that influence to strive for independence. We all know what they want. And I will explain why they want it in a minute, or maybe two. So the only way to get this kind of crisis of isolation is if we are pushing these kind of bills through. Because if we are pushing this kind of bills through, then we are interfering and are pushing Taiwan into dependence, into their own dependence, right? And then they will sever from its motherland, China. And China has promised us there will be war and also consequences for all parties that have created this problem. And I want Dutch people to really understand. China never attacked us. But I'll be damned if they don't, if we are trying to touch Taiwan. If this will be a cause for Taiwan, by God, remember, they have nuclear weapons. Remember, they are also one of our biggest trading partners. And remember, they've never done us anything wrong, despite the fact that we, and yes, also we as the Netherlands, have invaded them, stolen from them, and committed genocide on them. Yeah, what's not been taught in school. But I can give you a couple of stories of that, but not now. So he says he wants to have them as examples of international platforms where Taiwan should be able to speak. Why should they be able to speak? They are part of China. The speaking for that is what China does. And let me ask this, what his name was again, Paterno. Why do all these colonies of the Netherlands don't have a seat in the United Nations or in their organizations? So why doesn't Paterno want to have our own colonies, these right here? It's still quite a bit. Aruba, Curaçao, Bonaire, Sint Maarten, Saba, Sint Eustatius. I never even heard of that one. I didn't even know that we had that one. Anyway, now I know. Very interesting. That's how little we are being taught about our colonies in school. For a reason. He should say Aruba, Curaçao, Bonaire, Sint Maarten, Saba, Sint Eustatius should be able to speak on international platforms like the World Health Organization, the Climate Summit, and the World Aviation Organization. Why not? If you want that, why can they not enjoy those same rights as you want to have for all of the sudden for a province of China? And mind you, Taiwan is not even a colony. We are talking, these are colonies in the Caribbean. Colonies in the Caribbean, thousands of miles from the Netherlands apart, as we can see on this here. It's a disgusting country that still holds colonies, oppressing others, and dare to speak about all these kind of things. Talk about your own country instead of others. Now, why do I say that these plans of Paterno will do exactly what he says doesn't want for Taiwan? He doesn't want Taiwan to be isolated. So what do you think that would happen in a case of war? Taiwan will be isolated. Truth or wrong? Look at the map. Look at the map. Everything surrounding Taiwan will be blockade. There will also be no more trade going on over there. So I want people to look at the map and see what it actually says. As we can see, a lot of trade will go to the Taiwan Strait. What do you think if there will be a war between Taiwan and China, mainland China? A hot war. The entire South China Sea will be on lockdown. What do you think it will do to the world economy? It will be disastrous because people don't get their goods anymore, because no commercial ship will sail in a war zone. I want people to start to think about what the consequences actually will be. What do you think that the consequences will be for Europe? Or at least the parties that are in favor of this war. So if Paterno would get his wish granted and push Taiwan into a motion of more independence, then a war between the mainland China and its own province, Taiwan, is going to happen? Because China is not going to let go of its own territory. So what will happen if Pernod gets what he wishes, right? So China will feel threatened that Taiwan will one time get its independence and be severed from the mainland. And that is seen as something that they don't want. I want Dutch people to understand it's like if China would be supporting for Texel to be independent or South Netherlands to be independent. Would you agree on that? Of course not. And you would be very angry indeed and say they should not be touching our sovereignty. Well, this is exactly how they are thinking. So they will view us as creating this conflict. And let me tell you, they've said it several times that they know. So this is the map of Taiwan, where you see this island, that is Taiwan. And there is all the trade of the South China Sea is going either on one side or through the Strait of Taiwan. And also, mind you, Japan is also in that area. South Korea is also in that area. Vietnam is also in the area. Philippines, Brunei, and all the other ones, right? That's very important to know. Because what would happen in case of a war? Well, what would happen is very easy to determine. The whole South China Sea will be a war zone. What does it mean is that no more commercial routes will be available in the South China Sea. And what would that be for most of the world? It would mean this: empty shelves. This is how the Netherlands would look like. Probably less than this. Less products, yes. Because most of the products we are importing from China. Our companies are in China producing things, bringing it back to the Netherlands to do business. So what will be the effect of this? High inflation, because the stuff that we will have will be extremely expensive. Because there's a higher demand than that they have products. And that will raise the price because we live in a capitalist society. So we will have a tremendous amount of inflation. And inflation, while at the same time we are having this, empty shelves. So if you can buy something, you have to pay an astronomical price for it, which most of your people will not be able to afford anymore. And the reason why you will not be able to afford, because if shops are going to look like this, that means they will very soon go broke. And what does it mean when a shop goes broke? Well, it means that the jobs will also be gone. And what does it mean when those jobs are gone? It means you don't have a job anymore. And all the things that are related to this kind of trade will come crashing down. And so that's the first thing that we are going to enjoy. The other thing will be that we will become a nuclear target for China. And we will become a military target for China. Because we are the ones that pulled them into a war. So my question to the Dutch people is that exactly what you want? Or would you say, why are we doing this? Let me know in the comment section. So this is what is going to happen. This is how it's going to look. So I want people to really to start understand this situation that we are creating before it's too late. I want people to remember when the Ukraine war started, how much did this sunflower oil go up from 80 cents to 4 euros? You want to have that again? I promise and I guarantee you that if you can pull China into a war over Taiwan, we are going to be obliterated. For that, I will make a different series so you understand why. It has to do with the history, and it's a promise. And until this very day, China has always kept its promises. So be very mindful of that. And really start to think if you really want this and support this. Because this is the road that we are going. And why is it for? Well, the reason why is very simple. The reason why is for something like this. As we can see, G7 agrees 50 billion loan for Ukraine from Russian assets. They want to put the same sanction package on China as they've done to Russia. Well, it didn't work for Russia. And why didn't it work for Russia? Because they could step over on which payment system? That of China. What makes you think that it would help you against China? Yes, you will be able to steal their money, their dollars or euros, what they are having, right? And that is exactly what they want, because they want to destroy the economy of China. But also, mind you, for this view, that we must not forget, this is how our shops will look like, and no other way. And China has made its own economy of a 1.4 billion people. Many people over there can support the Chinese economy. We are not that interested or interesting anymore. And definitely not when you're starting to try and steal land from China. And whether you agree with that is the case or not, that is how the Chinese will view it. And when you are thinking in a strategic way, you also need to understand how they view it. And that's exactly how they will view it. And then the G7, they will seize that money. But who is that money actually going to? It's not going to our countries. Our nations aren't seizing anything because they cannot. And the reason why they cannot seize anything is because the banks are not from the state. The banks are private entities. They're the ones who are seizing that money. And they're the ones who are loaning that money to another nation to exploit it later on. And they will use that money to buy out all of our businesses until the last one has been seized by this very 1% elite group. The Netherlands, all the small shops will be taken over. Because you cannot make rent anymore. Because the rent is so high and your income is so low. And then these same capitalists that are responsible for your high rent will take your shop away. And you would be more than happy to sell it for the most cheapest price you can sell it off. Just to buy some toilet paper. Just think of that. How can you give a loan to Ukraine of 50 billion from money which is not yours, that you have stolen, right? And expect Ukraine to be able to pay it while you are literally trying to have it totally destroyed. This is what's going on. This is why they want Ukraine to be in a war. And this is what they want for Taiwan. They don't care about the rights of the people in Taiwan whatsoever. If they did, they wouldn't be supporting that government from day one. They remember what I said in their history, putting people on martial law and taking the lives of so many people. It's literally a tyranny. And we, again, supported it. But yeah, let's be honest. I mean, we don't care much about human rights since we still have our own colonies. We don't care about freedom or democracy whatsoever. We cannot even say that when we still have all these colonies, right? Let's be honest here. Yeah. But now you get the picture why they want to do that. And this is a way that they want to hurt China. Not our countries. Our countries are going to fight for that. And in a case of war, they will send your kids to there, not kids of the bankers that are going to get this money, that are going to profit from this money, from this thievery. No, not their kids. Your kids. They were going to send your kids. And your kids are never going to come back. Or the chances will be very slim to come back. And then we also have the threat of a nuclear war. Not only by China, but also North Korea and Russia. And most likely, Iran will also become a threat to us. And the reason why is because they all are very depending on China's survival. They cannot let it go and let us destroy China. It's in their interest to defend China to the teeth. So, if Europe does not want to have peace and wants to become a third world, totally destroyed by wars, and have shops like this, then just continue and destroy yourself. But if you don't want to have war and you don't want to have empty shelves and a totally destroyed economy, then, maybe we should change our tone a little bit. And maybe we should be more worried about the rights of the people of these countries, Aruba, Curaçao, Bonaire, Sint Maarten, Saba, St. Eustatius, and give them independence before you start to speak on other nations. I want to show it, especially to the Dutch people, something. This is again from the NOS, which is a state media. And this says, worldwide, only 12 countries acknowledge Taiwan as a sovereign nation. Only 12 countries in the whole entire world. Other countries, under which superpowers like the United States and also the Netherlands, see the government in Beijing as sole legal government of China. And that means also of Taiwan. So isn't it the weirdest thing that at the same time when they are saying this, they also want to separate them? Because that's what they are after. And why? So they can fulfill their circle of military encirclement over Taiwan. As you can see, the island is very close to the mainland. So it would be great to turn it into a nice, big military bases. And that would finish the island chain of military bases that have already surrounded China. Because it is not China who's the aggressor. It is us, the warmongers, the usual suspects. As always, the ones that only want war in the world and no peace. And the ones are these. Because this was an initiative of IPAC, a global alliance of lawmakers, 40 parliaments and 250 lawmakers. And when we look at those countries, we will see Australia, Belgium, Canada, European Union. It's not a country, but yeah, they need to fill it up to make it look more. France, Germany, Italy, Japan. Then we have the Republic of China. Like, that's insane, right? We have Sweden, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Ukraine. So we see that whole NATO is in there, which is the biggest warmongers of the world. And those are also the colonial powers. And the others are their dogs. Like, for example, Ukraine, who we have totally destroyed. And I think that especially Taiwan should take a very, very close look at Ukraine. Because if you're not careful, you're going to end up like them. And that's something that's going to happen. But yes, we are pushing for a war. We are using the Philippines and Taiwan as a proxy to try to pull China into a war. So we can apply that package sanction and steal their money. And so our bankers, the private entities, in other words, the capitalists, can steal money from other nations while putting our lives in danger and making our lives miserable and putting our lives on the line so they can buy 50 more villas and exploit us. Because mind you, everything for us will become more expensive, not for them. Because they own everything and they want to own all the other nations. And that is why they want to have this war. Anyway, this was a very long one, but it needed to have some real in-depth explanation. I hope it is a little bit more understandable right now why this is not a good idea and why our government must be stopped doing this at all times. I also will tell you that all these, they do not think of what is good for the Netherlands, and they are doing what a handful of capitalists wants for a profit. And these capitalists are not our friends, as they have shown to us yet again. Let me know what you all think of this in the comment section, but please keep it respectful. We are not uncivilized barbarians, unlike these. Anyway, please like, share, and if you have not yet, then follow. And as always, have a great day. Your favorite half Chinese.